What if I told you that one of the wealthiest men in Asia was once kidnapped at gunpoint for ransom and still ended up building a multi-billion-dollar empire? Well, these are exactly the kind of stories we'll explore in this video as we take a look at the richest Asian family dynasties of 2025. Stay tuned, because number 1 will surely blow your mind. Starting with number 12, the Kuok family, Malaysia. If humility could be turned into an art form, Robert Kuok would have painted the masterpiece. Nicknamed the Sugar King of Asia, he's the kind of billionaire who quietly owned half of Malaysia's sugar market in the 70s, yet still refused to fly first class. Born in Johor Bahru during British rule, Kwok built his empire from post-war trade routes, turning sugar into the sweet foundation of a business that now spans hotels, commodities, real estate, and logistics. At one point, his company supplied so much sugar that people joked, "If you add sugar to your tea in Southeast Asia, you're paying Robert Kuok." Kuok family's crown jewel is unarguably the Shangri-La Group, a luxury hotel chain that turned Asian hospitality into a global standard. From Singapore's marina front properties to London's Shard, every chandelier and marble lobby quietly reflects the Kwok brand of understated opulence. Behind the scenes, Kuok's family also holds major stakes in Wilmar International, Asia's agribusiness titan, and operates under the family-run Kerry Group, which owns warehouses, shipping lines, and even food brands. But despite all this wealth, Robert Kuok and his family are famously private. They've never been one for interviews, publicity, or social media. The family keeps counsel close, moves deliberately, and resists the urge to narrate itself. And at 100 years old, Robert Kuok is still revered as a kind of corporate philosopher, one who built an empire without ever needing the spotlight. Today, his children, Kwok Kun Ian, Ruth, and Kwok Kun Hong, manage global divisions, ensuring the Kwok dynasty keeps humming quietly behind Asia's booming economy. The Kwok family's fortune may have been built quietly, but our next dynasty? Not a chance. They didn't just survive storms. They walked right through kidnappings, hijackings, and stock market meltdowns, and still came out billionaires. Next, we have number 11, the Adani family, India. Now, if the Kwoks are the definition of quiet power, the Adanis are the opposite, pure industrial thunder. Gautam Adani's life is so unbelievable that if Netflix made it into a series, critics would call it too dramatic to be real. He started small, a college dropout who left his hometown to sort diamonds in Mumbai. But in 1988, he founded Adani Enterprises. And that's when India's modern infrastructure story began to change. Fast forward 3 decades, and the Adani Group now controls India's ports, airports, power grids, green energy, and logistics networks. But here's where the story gets wild. In 1998, Adani was kidnapped at gunpoint and held for ransom, a moment that could have ended everything. He was released after negotiations, but fate wasn't done testing him. 10 years later, he was on board a plane hijacked during the 2008 Mumbai terror attacks, surviving only because he hid in the aircraft's bathroom. Most people would have walked away after such life-altering experiences, but instead of going underground, Adani came up even fearlessly and doubled down. His empire exploded in scale after 2014, when India's infrastructure and renewable energy sectors took off. The Adani Group now runs the largest private port in India, Asia's biggest solar energy field, and controls assets from data centers to airports. Of course, the success hasn't been without controversy. In 2023, the Hindenburg report accused Adani of stock manipulation, wiping out over $100 billion in market value overnight. But within 6 months, he recovered nearly half, the fastest billionaire rebound in modern history. Adani lives in a sprawling $100 million estate in Ahmedabad and travels by private jet, but he still calls himself a nation builder. His sons, Karan and Jeet, are now steering the ship, one managing ports, the other renewable energy. Now, if you thought surviving a plane hijacking was wild, wait till you hear about 2 brothers who literally built Singapore's skyline and still managed to avoid every camera flash. Next, we have number 10, the Ang family, Singapore. If you've ever walked down Orchard Road in Singapore, there's a good chance you've walked right through the Ang family's legacy without even realizing it. That's because Philip and Robert Ang, the reclusive brothers behind Far East Organization and Sino Group, built much of Singapore's modern skyline. Their father, Ng Teng Fong, arrived from China in the 1930s with little more than ambition. He went on to earn the nickname the King of Orchard Road, and the numbers back it up. His company, Far East Organization, has developed over 780 projects across Singapore, which translates to more than 55,000 private homes. To put it simply, 1 in every 8 Singaporeans is living under a roof built by this family. That's not influence, that's omnipresence. But the story doesn't end with Orchard Road alone. When Ng Teng Fong passed away in 2010, his empire was neatly split between his 2 sons. Philip oversees Far East Organization in Singapore, while Robert runs Sino Land in Hong Kong, giving the family a dual stronghold over 2 of Asia's priciest property markets. Together, their empire spans from luxury malls and commercial towers in Marina Bay to global hotel chains with more than 100 properties worldwide, and even iconic international ventures like developments in London and Australia. But unlike other billionaires, the Ang brothers aren't interested in glitz. They're known as deeply religious, intensely private, and almost allergic to publicity. You won't find them posing at galas or boasting about deals. In fact, they once joked that the only photo they willingly take is for their passport. What sets the Angs apart is how strategically structured their empire is. Ng Teng Fong's philosophy of the 3 baskets, property development, property investment and hospitality, ensured that the family business wasn't just vast, but also shock-proof. This forward-thinking diversification meant the dynasty not only survived turbulent real estate cycles, but expanded through them. Their family foundation quietly supports churches, hospitals, and education programs across Singapore. Philip Ang famously said, "We don't build for the rich, we build for legacy." And if there's one thing Singaporeans can agree on, it's that the Angs have built theirs in concrete, glass, and sky. Next up, we have the Mitsui family, Japan's 400-year-old merchant clan that basically wrote the book on corporate power. Next, we have number 9, the Mitsui family, Japan. Before there were tech tycoons or industrial magnates, Japan had the Mitsui clan, a family whose fortune is older than most modern countries. Their story begins in the 1600s, when Takatoshi Mitsui opened a kimono shop in Edo, which is now Tokyo. But this wasn't just any shop. It became Japan's first real corporate empire. By the Meiji Restoration, the Mitsuis had evolved from merchants into bankers, traders, and industrialists, helping finance Japan's transformation into a modern state. They pioneered what became the Zaibatsu system, sprawling family-owned conglomerates that shaped the nation's economy for centuries. Today, their reach is everywhere. Mitsui & Company operates in over 60 countries, trading everything from energy and metals to food and technology. Mitsui Fudosan, their real estate arm, is behind Tokyo's most recognizable developments: Tokyo Midtown, Nihonbashi redevelopment, and Grand Tokyo Towers. But what really defines the Mitsui dynasty isn't their scale, it's their philosophy. Unlike most billionaires, the Mitsuis see wealth as collective heritage, not personal property. They've maintained this ethos for nearly 4 centuries, with multi-generational trusts that keep the empire cohesive and scandal-free. Their family records, stored in heavily guarded vaults in Tokyo, reportedly date back to 1673, documenting every major transaction since their founding. In a country obsessed with perfection and legacy, that makes them the ultimate symbol of enduring wealth. And if the Mitsuis represent Japan's ancient business legacy, then the next family forged an industrial empire that powered the entire Japanese nation and left their logo shining on everything from cars to spacecraft. Next, we have number 8, the Mitsubishi family, Japan. At number 8, we have yet another entry from Japan. And if Japan's economic history had a single bloodline running through it, it would probably spell Mitsubishi. Founded in 1870 by Yataro Iwasaki, the Mitsubishi story started humbly, with just 3 second-hand steamships and a dream of modernizing Japan's trade. Within a few decades, those ships had multiplied into mines, banks, and factories that powered an empire. The Iwasaki family effectively built Japan's industrial backbone, pioneering the famous Zaibatsu system, where one clan controlled interconnected businesses spanning everything from finance to manufacturing. By the early 1900s, Mitsubishi wasn't just a company, it was a symbol of national progress. Today, the family's influence lives on through a sprawling keiretsu of over 300 companies under the Mitsubishi banner. That includes MUFG Bank, Japan's largest and one of the world's most powerful financial institutions. Mitsubishi Motors, Mitsubishi Electric, and Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, the engineering giant behind Japan's spacecraft, fighter jets, and energy systems. Their combined presence is so vast that nearly every Japanese citizen interacts with a Mitsubishi product or service daily, from the car they drive to the building they work in. The Iwasaki family themselves have largely faded from the public spotlight, but their influence remains etched in Tokyo's skyline. Their ancestral mansion, the Iwasaki House Garden, is now a national heritage site, a serene reminder of how far one visionary's ambition took an entire nation. And yes, that 3-diamond logo that gleams on everything from sedans to satellites. It comes from Yataro's original shipping insignia, Mitsui, meaning 3, and Bishi, meaning diamond. Proof that even corporate empires can start from a simple family crest. Now, that's the kind of wealth built on steamships and steel. But the next dynasty shows that you don't need to sell machines to build an empire. Sometimes, all you need is integrity, vision, and a century-old brand. Next, we have number 7, the Tata Family, India. If business dynasties were judged by integrity, the Tata family would sit comfortably on the throne. Founded in 1868 by Jamsetji Tata, this is the family that practically built modern India. One steel beam, one school, and one idea at a time. What started as a humble trading firm became India's first industrial empire. Tata Steel built the nation's earliest steel plant. Tata Power lit its first hydroelectric lamps. And the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel in Mumbai introduced true Indian luxury to the world. Fast forward to today, and the Tata Group operates over 100 companies across 6 continents, from Tata Motors, which owns Jaguar Land Rover, to Tata Consultancy Services, TCS, one of the world's top IT firms. Add the recently reacquired Air India, and you've got an empire that quite literally flies the national flag. But here's what sets them apart. Over 65% of the Tata Group is owned by charitable trusts. That means most of its profits go directly into education, healthcare, and rural development rather than private pockets. It's capitalism with conscience, and it works. At the heart of it all is Ratan Tata, the gentleman industrialist revered as India's moral compass. Despite overseeing billions, he drives himself in a modest Tata Nano, lives in a simple Mumbai apartment, and refuses to draw an extravagant salary. When asked about wealth, his answer summed up the Tata ethos. The true measure of wealth is how many lives you improve. The Tatars defined ethical wealth, but our next family took a completely different route. Instead of factories or finance, they built their fortune in something far more relatable: shopping malls, hotels, and a global retail kingdom. Next, we have number 6, the Cherathivat family, Thailand. In Thailand, retail is not just business, it's a national pastime. And if you've ever strolled through a mall in Bangkok, chances are you've been shopping in a Chirathivat creation. What began as a tiny store in the 1950s has blossomed into Central Group, Thailand's most powerful retail empire. The family now operates over 3,800 stores, 60-plus shopping malls, and hundreds of luxury hotels under the Centara brand. Their holdings stretch far beyond Thailand, with landmark acquisitions like La Rinascente in Italy, Cardawi in Germany, and Illum in Denmark, making the Chirathivats true global retail royals. What's fascinating is how the family, now spanning over 60 members across 4 generations, manages to stay so coordinated. Instead of falling into chaos like many dynasties, they operate through a structured family council, ensuring strategy remains unified even as the empire grows. Their aesthetic has always been a fusion of Thai warmth and global luxury. Think Buddhist sensibilities blended with European chic. Walk into Central Embassy or Central World, and you'll instantly see what that means. Polished marble, art installations, and designer boutiques sharing space with local Thai brands. They're also known for their love of art, fashion, and culture, often hosting international exhibitions and supporting Thai artists. Behind the glamour, the Chirathivats are disciplined entrepreneurs who understand one golden rule of retail: keep reinventing before your shoppers get bored. But while the Chirathivats conquered consumerism, another family turned concrete into power across the South China Sea. Their wealth was literally built floor by floor, but not without a few scandals, rivalries, and a high-stakes kidnapping. Next, we have number 5, the Kuok family, Hong Kong. If Hong Kong's skyline had a surname, it would be Kwok. The family behind Sun Hung Kai Properties, SHKP, practically built half the city and lived through enough drama to fill an entire Netflix series. Founded in the 1960s by Kwok Tak Seng, SHKP grew from a modest construction firm into Hong Kong's largest property developer. Their portfolio includes skyscrapers, luxury malls, and 5-star hotels, from the International Commerce Centre, ICC, to Harbour Plaza and Times Square in Causeway Bay. But here's the kicker. Beneath the glimmering glass towers lies a tale of family turmoil that shook an entire nation. In 1997, Kwok's eldest son, Walter Kwok, was kidnapped for ransom. He was held inside a wooden crate for a week, blindfolded and severely beaten. Although he was rescued after intense negotiation and paying a hefty ransom, the incident scarred him deeply, and years later, internal disputes with his brothers, Thomas and Raymond, led to his ouster. But Kwok's story didn't end there. Then came a corruption scandal that shook Hong Kong's elite. In 2014, Thomas Kwok was convicted of bribery, leaving Raymond as the sole leader of the empire. But through it all, the Kwoks managed to protect their company's stability, a feat that says a lot about their business instincts. Today, SHKP's value exceeds $35 billion, and the family owns an enviable collection of penthouses overlooking Victoria Harbour, private islands, and art collections that rival museums. Their investment philosophy is old school and brilliant. They never sell prime land. Instead, they lease and hold, ensuring long-term control over Hong Kong's most valuable real estate. All in all, the Kwoks built skyscrapers that kiss the clouds. But the next family turned cigarette smoke into an empire that banks on everything from finance to electronics. Next, we have number 4, the Hartono family, Indonesia. If wealth in Indonesia had a scent, it would probably smell like clove smoke and crisp rupiah bills. The Hartono family, worth over $42 billion, built their fortune from the sweet haze of Indonesia's signature cigarette, kretek. It all began in the 1950s when Oe Wee Guan bought a small, struggling clove cigarette brand called Jarum. A devastating factory fire nearly erased the business, but his sons, Robert and Michael Hartono, turned that tragedy into fuel. They rebuilt Jarum from ashes, literally, and transformed it into a national icon that dominates Indonesia's tobacco market. But here's where their genius really kicks in. During the 1997 Asian financial crisis, when other magnates were panicking, the Hartonos went shopping. They quietly snapped up a controlling stake in Bank Central Asia (BCA) for pennies on the dollar. Today, BCA is Indonesia's largest private bank, and that one move alone multiplied their fortune several times over. Beyond tobacco and banking, the family's empire stretches into electronics, polytron, real estate, malls, and tech startups, ensuring they have a piece of nearly every major growth sector in Southeast Asia. Despite their immense wealth, the Hartonos remain remarkably low profile, almost invisible in public life. Yet behind closed doors, their influence runs deep through Indonesia's economy and politics alike. And here's a charming twist. Michael Hartono, at 78, won a bronze medal for Indonesia in bridge at the Asian Games. Imagine that, a billionaire lighting cigars with one hand and collecting medals with the other, only in Indonesia. Now, from Indonesia's secretive tycoons, we move to Thailand's ultimate power clan, a family that doesn't just feed the nation, but practically runs its economy. Next, we have number 3, the Chearavanont family, Thailand. The Chearavanont is a family whose name is written all over the business blueprint of Thailand. Placed at number 3 on our list, this family is behind Chearavanont CP Group, turned a humble Bangkok seed shop into a multi-billion-dollar powerhouse that feeds and connects half of Asia. It all started in 1921 with Chia Ek Chor and his brother, 2 Chinese immigrants selling vegetable seeds to Thai farmers. From those modest beginnings, the family grew CP into a vertically integrated empire that runs on one simple principle: control everything from farm to fork. Today, CP is one of the world's largest agribusiness conglomerates, producing livestock, feed and food that supply millions across the region. But they didn't stop there. The family also controls 7-Eleven stores in Thailand, owns major stakes in True Corporation, one of Thailand's biggest telecom networks, and operates across 20-plus countries, including China, Vietnam and the US. Their secret? Long-term vision and quiet diplomacy. Under patriarch Danin Chearavanont, CP mastered the art of global partnerships, working with giants like Walmart, Toyota, and even governments. They were also the first foreign company allowed to operate in post-reform China, giving them an unshakable foothold in one of the world's toughest markets. Despite their $40+ billion fortune, the Chearavanonts maintain an understated image, focused more on business than buzz. But don't be fooled by their humility. Their reach extends from Thai rice fields to Shanghai tech hubs. But while the Chearavanonts proved that food can make fortunes, let's look at our next billionaire who started with plastic flowers and ended up owning ports, telecoms, and a slice of nearly every continent. Next, we have number 2, the Li Ka-shing family. Before he became Superman Li Ka-shing was just a 12-year-old boy forced to drop out of school after his father's death. By sheer will and an unmatched sense of timing, he built one of Asia's most powerful empires, CK Hutchison Holdings and CK Asset Holdings. Starting with a plastic flower factory in 1950s Hong Kong, Li quickly pivoted into real estate just as the city began its explosive growth. That instinct to see opportunity before anyone else became his superpower. By the 1980s, Li's empire stretched across ports, telecoms, retail, Watsons, infrastructure, and energy. His companies operate in over 50 countries, employing more than 300,000 people worldwide. When Li made a move, markets moved with him, and his personal habits became legend. Despite billions, he wore a $500 Citizen watch, ate in the same modest restaurants, and often reused envelopes. Frugality wasn't an act, it was his philosophy. His strategic timing bordered on supernatural. In 2017, he sold $4 billion worth of Hong Kong property assets just months before the market correction, a move that cemented his Superman nickname among financiers. Now in his 90s, Li has handed the reins to his sons, Victor Li, who runs CK Hutchison, and Richard Li, who heads PCCW and Pacific Century Group. Between them, they continue to steer one of the world's most diversified business portfolios. Superman Li might have mastered timing, but the family that sits on top of Asia's wealth pyramid plays in an entirely different league. Their house has 27 floors, their parties feature Rihanna, and their business empire runs a nation. Last but not least, we have number 1, the Ambani family, India. The Ambanis aren't just India's richest. They're practically a money-making institution in their own. Their story begins with Dhirubhai Ambani, a former gas station attendant who founded Reliance Industries in the 1950s. What started as a textile company quickly exploded into an industrial juggernaut spanning energy, retail, telecom, and now green tech. After Dhirubhai's death, the empire split between his sons, Mukesh and Anil Ambani. One soared, the other stumbled. Mukesh took Reliance to unprecedented heights, building Reliance Jio, which single-handedly transformed India's digital landscape by making data dirt cheap. With over 450 million subscribers, Jio turned connectivity into currency. Then came Reliance Retail, now India's largest retailer, and Reliance Energy, powering the country's green transition. Together, they make up an empire worth over $90 billion, and counting. Of course, the Ambani lifestyle is just as headline-grabbing as their businesses. Their Mumbai residence, Antilia, is a 27-story private skyscraper valued at more than $2 billion, staffed by over 600 people and rivaling royal palaces in opulence. The family's 2024 wedding for Mukesh's youngest son, Anant Ambani, made global news, with performances by Rihanna, Justin Bieber, and appearances from Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, alongside many other global icons. But behind the spectacle lies structure. Each of Mukesh's children now leads a division. Akash oversees digital ventures, Isha runs retail, and Anant spearheads green energy. The dynasty is future-proofed. Through the Reliance Foundation, they fund education, rural development, and women's empowerment, keeping the empire's social face as polished as its marble floors. Love them or loathe them, the Ambanis are the ultimate symbol of modern India, part spectacle, part strategy, and entirely unstoppable. And this concludes our journey through the 12 richest Asian dynasties. Which one of these empires fascinated you the most? Let us know in the comments, and for more such peeks into the lives of the rich, take a look at our channel.